This is Brownie's Podcast!
Hey, welcome to Brownie's Podcast. Round 1, 2023 is done and dusted. We've got a lot to get through. Jeremy Howes. Oh, Jesus. Did you guys watch that live?
I did.
Yeah,
Oh.
graphic. Graphic's the best way to describe it, but it was great to see. Good to see Brodie is alive.
Yeah, Broads is bucks. We're going to get a blow by blow because this degenerate was out. I heard he was sucking stuff out of a random's belly button. We'll
Sucking
unpack that.
stuff, okay.
Yeah,
That's
sucking
good.
it. Slurping it.
Uh,
the big
also,
winners.
big-
Collingwood.
there was big winners.
And Port look like the biggest mad dogs in the league.
I think so.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're an Essendon supporter, you would have been wrapped with what you saw.
Hey, just quickly, before we continue, we just need to tidy something up because Brown Dog's all confused this morning. So he's an avid listener of Brownie's podcast. He likes to listen to his own work.
I go back and critique you blokes.
So Friday night, he was on the way home from the game and he decided to put Brownie's podcast on just for a little bit of light listening.
Are you serious?
And he thought that the pub trivia chat, now we've put it on the table that, let's have pub trivia on a Friday.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get Muggsy to host. He thought we re-recorded that bit.
When
Like
I
it was a
left.
whole new segment. So he came in this morning and he accused me of, did you, Dino and Brodie, re-record
What
me
is-
out of that segment?
What is wrong with you?
I thought that that chat didn't happen when I was in the podcast.
It did. You just said all.
So I did say, you know how to rush straight off after we recorded? I did say, thought you went back in and you re-recorded that whole segment.
Is this where we're at with your trust levels? You think we're going behind your back? Hey, he's gone. Let's do a better version.
I don't know. I was rattled, but now JB's cleared it up that no, that was him.
Had you worked yourself up into a frenzy like these fucking bastards? I don't trust me.
We
No,
are,
it wasn't that.
we are gradually just cutting Brown Dog out of the podcast.
And why is my face off the other?
That's astonishing.
Mate,
Yeah.
so clearly, Dog was obviously putting on his best bets for the day while we were doing that segment. He can't ever remember it.
I switched right off.
Oh, man.
You can tell I'm not a trivia buff.
Hey, a lot of feedback from you on the internet, people tagging me about you on TV.
I was on the boundary for the Hawks and Essendon game, and let me tell you, there was nearly 70,000 people at the G yesterday, and didn't the Essendon supporters love giving it to me when they were up when they were up by 10 goals in the last quarter? I was walking the boundary and
Give me something.
the vitriol.
What do you remember? Anything audible? Any comments you can remember?
What'd you think of that, Brown, you sniper? You know?
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
I would encourage all Essendon supporters,
Yeah.
next time you play Hawthorn and Brown Dog's doing the boundary, I'd encourage you to bring buckets of sand and just throw sand at him.
Someone
The
yelled
line in the
out.
sand game.
Someone yelled out, Brown, get a dog up here, which I've never fully understood that
okay.
Yeah,
quote.
what does that involve? Why does the dog need to be up you?
I don't know.
And what does the dog do when in you?
I know that it's offensive,
Yeah.
but I've never quite understood it.
It's like shelving a dog.
So what I did, I just smiled back to the crowd and said, "Too good today, guys."
Yeah.
Humble.
Dignified.
Yeah, humbled.
Oh, there's a lot happening from the round. It was interesting, wasn't it? I loved it. Round one's a funny one because we can tend to overreact. So my team, Brisbane, were horrible. Geelong were under par. The great goal king in the first
Were
half
they?
probably had them in front.
Or Collingwood were just really good.
Collingwood were really good. Western Bulldogs were underwhelming as well. And Fremantle were poor against a undermanned St Kilda lineup.
How
So
about
you could
Roscoe
say-
after the game? He looked like a pig in shit.
He did. What about, has he mellowed a bit, Roscoe? Because people were tapping on the glass of the coach's box and he was waving like a granddad. He's blowing kisses to little kids. He's got a funny sort of a way.
Yeah,
with that
there's
sort
no
of-
firmness in the wrist, is there?
I've never shook hands with Ross Lyon. Has he got a firm handshake or is it like a... Is it like a
Not
sort of
Michael
wet fish?
Clark wet lettuce sort of stuff. It's a
Yeah.
bit firmer, but it's not strong like EJ Whitten. You know
Hey,
what I mean?
BT's handshake is the finest I've ever experienced.
Well, it's like shaking hands with a slab
bear.
of
Yeah,
meat.
yeah.
Hey, I reckon Roscoe's on the medicinal weed like Dimmer. It would explain a lot.
Well, he might be. He just seems so mellow.
Dimmer, what do you reckon?
Don't give a shit.
All right, all good. All good.
But
all good.
they were very good. Geelong got a few injuries, haven't they? And Chris Scott wouldn't have had them cranked up for round one. Obviously, recovering from the grand final, they wouldn't have had as long to train.
Yeah, it was a tough round for tipsters. I tipped 2 out of 9. Like, I went for a few upsets that didn't happen. Like I thought the Suns might, maybe perform. They looked absolutely woeful. It was just a really tough round.
Did the fat coach comments get back to Stewie Jew?
Nah, they haven't yet.
Poor Stewie, man.
Wow, just join in on training. It's not hard.
Join in the training.
Oh, stop it.
Hey, you guys all came for me about the Eagles, but the fact is we came back from 6 goals down to almost win. You guys were shithouse against Port.
Yeah, I know. I'll own up. You know, well, I wasn't out there playing, but Brisbane were shithouse. But Port were awesome. So we spoke about Jason Horne-Francis late last week. People were comparing him to Patrick Dangerfield. I'm more thinking of Joel Selwood. You know, because he had leadership written all over it. So, yes, he's got power like Dangerfield, but he's sort of got that intangible with that leadership and just that bull presence, which was really impressive and great to see, along with Rosie and Butters. Are they, like, we took a look at the great midfields of the past. Yeah, the Fab Four at the Brisbane Lions. You also had Kerr, Cousins,
Fletcher.
And Judd. Like, have they got Rosie, Butters, Horne-Francis? Is that the makings of a superstar midfield going forward? If only they could find their Dean Cox, a good young ruckman as well. But I'm serious about this. Like, Port Adelaide would be looking there going, wow, imagine how far we can go.
Brodie, hearing those words come out of Jonathan's mouth, how do you feel?
For me, Horne-Francis has the Dermot Brereton type, chest out, get behind me, don't even worry about it. It's almost it's a bit peacocky, which I love. I couldn't be more in fact. Like, he just swagged around. He's a 19-year-old kid. Yeah. He swagged around like, I'm the best player on the field, and there's nothing that any of you can do to stop me.
Speaking of peacocking, Big Mason Cox. I like it when he gets a bit feisty. Do you guys hate it or do you like it?
No,
you hate it.
No, I don't hate it. I just don't. He gets feisty, but he wouldn't put the fear of God into any footballer out there. So I'm not sure how.
But the Yanks love all that. Typical loudmouth Yank. They love their sledging and sort of very outward emotion.
Yeah. Question: say if there was a young player or any player that's really showboating to the crowd, is really giving it to them, is asking for a bit of feedback, as two of the harder men of the AFL who didn't mind injuring other players, almost took great joy in the fact. What would you do to a young player who was putting their head up like that?
A teammate or a
opposition?
You try and nail him at the centre bounce. Back in the day, you used to, back in the good old days.
Make footy great again.
Considering we're about to go into a concussion, a couple of moments time.
Make the concussion lawsuit bigger.
That is an area where you'd think, right, this is my chance. I can come off the square and catch an unsuspecting victim.
Loose elbows.
But I'm glad to say that I've changed. I haven't got that attitude anymore.
The last
I'm a bit like Rossi. Me and Rossi been smoking joints over in the corner.
The last person I heard say catch an unsuspecting victim was Jeffrey Dahmer. It was good. So Port Adelaide, they're a lot better than
well
I
done,
think.
Brian.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why.
Well done, mate.
Their recruiting in the off-season has been terrific the last few years. They went out and got Alira, right, who you said was outstanding. Then that Willie Rioli really contributed, Junior. Sorry, I should have said Junior.
Oh, how'd he go? Because I didn't see the game.
Mate, he kicked
Exceptional.
three.
He was awesome.
He was great. And then you got Horne-Francis, right, that was terrific. So they're automatically a 3 or 4 goal better side with those two in there. And Alira played terrific last year.
He's back to that All-Australian form.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he was great. West Coast Dino, I'm going to ask the question. Since COVID, now, I'm not going to say since the grand final of Premiership win in 2018, but since COVID, why does it look like the West Coast veterans or senior players don't care? They look like they're just collecting the cheque to cover their boathouse or their boat or their holiday house down at Margaret River.
It's a good point. I don't know. The body language is a
It's
thing,
the way
isn't
they
it?
play, yeah.
I don't know. I reckon Simo. I love Simo, but I reckon his time is sort of up. I reckon we should have got off him.
He's
the end
booked
of
a
last
holiday
year.
to Bali in June. Don't worry. He's going. He's got at least a month off. He's going to enjoy himself.
With that cash up, we could offer it that job to anyone.
Simpson, I really rate Adam Simpson. Was he a coach at Hawthorn when you were there, Brown?
No, he wasn't. But I've been at the club when he was there doing some stuff, and the boys all really liked him. And
but he just can't seem to get any intensity out of the playing group, especially the senior players.
You know, he owns a couple of Hungry Jacks in Western Australia.
What?
Perth. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think that was one of the incentives to keep him over in Perth was franchises. Because
Jeremy.
Hungry Jacks notoriously have never outwardly franchised.
Yeah.
But the owner's such a big West Coast Eagles guy and has been since day dot that all of a sudden the Simpson family own a couple of Hungry Jacks.
Well,
he had to go in there and work because you're required to do a couple
That's
of reps.
right.
Yeah, so
Imagine
he's-
owning a couple of Hungry Jacks. Like it'd be
Cha-ching,
similar to
cha-ching,
Macca's.
cha-ching.
Yeah, I know, like cash-wise, but geez, it'd be tempting just to drive through, wouldn't it?
I reckon Jezza McGovern has keys and you just
Keys to
goes
the
in
back
there.
door. Yeah, so that's concerned. What about Western Bulldogs versus Melbourne? So Melbourne, they were my premiership pick, and I think it's Melbourne's to lose.
Yep. No, they look.
They look outstanding. I think they've fixed themselves up the back end after the back end of last year's disappointment. They play differently now. They move the ball differently, and that was all without Stephen May.
This
as well.
all happened last year. They looked invincible for the
good
first
point.
6 rounds.
Yeah, but I think they're a little bit better balanced now. Like Ben Brown's really important for them, and the way that they moved the ball in the second half of last year was impossible for Ben Brown, who doesn't have a heap of tricks. Like he's not lightning quick off the mark, and his hands are good, but then he's not a big crash pack marker. He needs space. He needs quick ball movement, and he's a beautiful shot on goal. And he got it this week. He kicked 4. You wouldn't say he was unbelievable, but he just got to the right spots. They hit him up. They lowered their eyes. And
Do you think the fact that he got a haircut and cleaned himself up has actually contributed to his effort or it's contributed to his performance on field?
it certainly helps.
Because I don't think you could play decent football
Oh,
running
you've been
around with
serious.
that shag on your head. Like honestly, how distracting would that be?
Just from an aerodynamic perspective.
Well, absolutely, he's a high flyer, but since he's grown that hair like right out,
Yeah.
he couldn't get off the ground.
Their
He
spark
jumped like
was
me.
Cozzy Pickett. There's no doubt about
Yes.
that. And look, he's going to miss a couple of weeks. We're going to talk about the bump being back this week. A couple of guys got really lit up, and Cozzy's hit on Bailey Smith was
Cannonball.
your human cannonball.
It was like the fat guy from Hook, that film with Peter Pan, Robin
Yeah,
Williams
man.
and stuff.
Yes.
He just rolls over and just takes him out in the face.
Man,
it was impressive.
How good were 90s films fat shame kids so much?
Yeah, no, don't know.
What was all that about?
The fat kid was always the enforcer.
So
it
who
was
got
great.
suspended this round?
3 players,
are
all
they?
for bumping.
Worth it?
The great Buddy Franklin, Cozzy Pickett, and Shane McAdam from Adelaide.
Yeah.
What was Buddy's hit? Was it?
He got Collins in the head. It was
Buddy's a bit stiff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of that happened late, but McAdam and Pickett
Oh, yeah.
are like cannonballs.
that was
So
going
it was
back to the old school.
It was actually really odd that both of those incidents happened in the one weekend. Like it was a real throwback.
You don't see it often, do
No,
you?
especially with players now knowing how much head height damage is a big issue in the game. Quickly, 4 new coaches wouldn't have picked it going into the game.
Yep.
The 4 new coaches, 4 victories.
Big.
Great effort.
Big.
Clarkson, Lyon, Brad Scott, the big names, and Adam Kingsley making his debut
They
for
come
GWS.
from behind. That was a big
Well,
win
that was
for
a
them.
great win. 35 degrees. Toby Green in the post game said that was the hardest game of football he's ever had to play in his life. The players looked absolutely cooked. I wonder is there a point where you need to shorten the quarters, where the game is too hot? Because all those players looked exhausted. They were cramping. GWS had lost 2 players on the bench. Kelly and Whitfield through head knocks. Is there a point where you need to shorten the quarters to make it safer?
You played footy in Brisbane. You would have played in some pretty
Yeah.
hot temperatures early in the year, and you on the Gold
Yeah.
Coast. What
We
was the
played at
warmest
night
you would
a
have
lot.
played?
We played at night a lot because of that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. But the day games, that's why we used to have the drips. Back in the day when drips were legal, you would come in
Yeah.
and hook ourselves up to a drip, and the drip had been in an esky. So it was ice cold, and you just feel
your
it,
veins.
the cold water running through your veins.
Martin
just bring
Pike
you down.
strip just had Bundaberg. Just rum. Straight up.
But seriously, that's what happened. And Toby Green was bloody awesome, wasn't he? The last week I said he could be the captain of the year. I'm very happy with that prediction
Yeah.
so far
John, you-
because he was
4-4
unbelievable.
and could have kicked, 5
Yeah.
or 6.
Oh,
Really.
John, you've been banging on about games should be shorter for many years now. When will the league listen to you?
Well, it's just because I want to get it home a bit earlier on Friday night. But the post game went to 11:30. Mate, we were going that badly. There was going to be a mention of Brownie's podcast.
I'd love to know how many people are stistill sitting at home at 11:30
Yeah, there wouldn't be many.
for analysis
They
after a
asked
game.
me, they said, what about we run a bit of Brownie's podcast bench? I said, why bother? Because it's only going to be me, Brown Dog, Brodie and Dino watching
Well,
it.
if you'd have run the trivia chat, I would have heard it for the first time.
Now, speaking of our podcast and our WhatsApp crew, I went and had a beer with Rick, one of the
On
most
you, Rick.
well-known members of the Brownies podcast community, one of the great degenerates.
One of the great degenerates. We love him.
Now, I went down to we had 4 beers. Had a great
in
chat.
1 quarter.
For a whole quarter. We'll put them away.
That's pretty quick. It's one every 7 or 8 minutes.
And I gave Rick the handwritten notes that you guys wrote to Rick. This one from JB.
To Rick, you are a great man, even better than Michael Moore. Now, thanks for listening to Brownie's podcast, Brownie. Yeah, right, Michael Moore.
Hey, Michael Moore's one of the great minds.
Yeah, he's got a great mind, but he looks like a whale.
Do you know who Michael Moore is?
Yeah,
Brendan?
bowling for Columbine and
yeah. And what
a
else
couple of
you
other
got?
shit.
Fahrenheit 9/11. Yeah, brilliant.
To Rick from Dog.
Fuck you, Rick, for talking Dino out of getting cinnamon. Yeah, bad luck.
As fluent as Shakespeare.
I love Rick.
Right, he is great. So, are you saying, Dino, that you were up in, because you're in the Medallion Club, I believe, which is sort of very highbrow.
Oh, yeah.
So, are you saying that you invited Rick up to the Medallion Club?
Nah,
did you?
Rick couldn't get in, so I just went down. I just went down to the
Mate,
shit
you had
seats.
16 tickets from
Mate!
Donald McDonald. How
Rick-
did you not spare Rick one?
Let's call him real quick. I just want you guys to have a quick chat to him.
Did you notice that only one of the captains went in for the coin toss?
Oh, yeah.
Rick speaking.
Ah, Rick!
Is that Michael Moore?
Oh, pissed off.
How was your day at the footy, Rick?
Just because you're handsome, you don't need to rub it into those who aren't.
Michael Moore's a very good-looking man and a fantastic documentarian. How was the day on Saturday with Dino at the footy at West Coast North Melbourne, Rick?
Oh, it was loose there for that third quarter, I can tell you that. We were screaming and jumping up and down, but all for no reason in the end.
At any stage, Rick, did Dino offer you to meet him up at the Medallion Club where the drinks would have been free, or did he not suggest that?
No, I actually suggested that I might do a when you crashed that NFL thing. And he sort of, he edged back a bit. He said, oh, no, it's high security and you've got to stand in. I felt very deflated, I can tell you that as well. This friendship is very loosely based because we could have made a day of it, but, it is what it is.
It was
I
very
loved the time I
convenient.
spent with him.
Rick and I were in arm when we saw Liam Ryan sell that double candy. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, that was cool.
That was unbelievable.
It
Hey,
was
Rick,
absolutely brilliant.
it was good to see you, man. Anything else you
you
want to... Any feedback for the podcast?
Oh, no, just how's Campbell going with the cinnamon? What are you going to do with it all? You going to try and sell it or what?
Yeah, we're going to have to try and find someone else.
How much cinnamon do you need to move?
Well, we got a couple of kilos of cinnamon. You know anyone that can move weight?
Cut it in with curry powder and try and sell it on the street.
Cut it in with curry powder.
Not a bad
Sell
suggestion.
it on the street. Do you think Adam Simpson is the right coach for West Coast Eagles, Rick?
No, he's gone.
Jeez.
Did any of you listen to his presser? It was absolutely hopeless. And he said, it's all about the journey. And it's the journey he will not be on.
Oh, Rick!
Bad, isn't he?
Rick! Hey,
On you, Rick.
No worries. Thanks very much.
take
See
it
ya.
easy, brother. Back in a second after ads.
This is Brownie's Podcast.
This is Brownie's podcast. Don't go anywhere. We're about to unpack Brodie Pomeroy points bets Bucks Day.
Let's just quickly rewind to Thursday night. The opener, Carlton v Richmond. It was a big event for the Silvani family because Jack Silvani was the third Silvani to make 100 games for that great club.
Yep, that's big.
His grandfather Serge, of course, his old man Stephen, and now Jack, 100 games. Now, obviously, they had a bit of a celebration, the Silvani family. They come into the rooms and took a lovely photo with his mother Jo and his siblings. But no, Stephen Silvani. Sauce refused to go into the dressing rooms and sat in the car while all this was going on. Obviously, still a bit of shit on his liver from the relationship that was soured at the end of his tenure at Carlton when he was the recruiting boss there. So that was imagine that, just Sauce just sitting out there, listening to a bit of Bruce Springsteen while the family's taking photos. What do you think about
He
that?
just had to put his ego aside there and do it for his son, I think.
Could
You
you
know,
see
because
Mel
he's not
Brown?
in all the photos now. All the photos of the family.
Do you see Mel Brown ever doing something like that?
Well, I reckon.
Actually, I could see Mel doing something like that.
I reckon if I played 100 games at the Suns, which I never got to, he might not have come up for the photo, Mel.
It's a funny visual. I wish someone had taken a photo of Sauce just sitting in the car
and
outside the dressing room.
edited it into the original photo.
Oh, yeah. Come on, Sauce.
Hey, how is Mel, by the way, real quick?
Mate, it's
Quick
great.
Yep.
Yeah, Mel's going great.
God, just record everything the man says. I want more Mel audio, man. It's like crack to me.
Now, come on. I'll tell you what's like
Bucks
crack
Day.
to me. Bucks Day.
Geez, it's been a good day. It was a big weekend. Started with the football Friday night, and I thought that I needed a little bit of, much like when you run a marathon, right? You don't come out and run 40k off no
Have
training.
you run a marathon?
No. But I imagine that's what it's like, you know? Right. You need a little bit of training in the legs. So I thought Friday night I would just open it up, go to the footy, have, say, 10 beers. Just drink responsibly and gamble responsibly. Just drink responsibly, just 10 beers, just to kind of,
They're middies at the G, aren't they?
Yeah, so just stretch the legs out. Saturday morning, and I promised myself, I said, listen, it's got to be beer on lips by 7:30.
AM?
AM. It's got to be.
What's the thinking there? It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I don't like that. That's way too early.
You're going to be useless by 10 a.m.
I was up at, even if I went to bed at midnight, I was up at 6.
We told you to pace yourself.
I know, staring at the ceiling because I was so excited. So then there was no time, and I had a mate sleeping in the other room who was over from Adelaide, and so I was like, oh, great. So 7:30, beers on lips.
Are you going to be this excited for the actual wedding or just for the bar?
I've run my race, unfortunately. That was the wedding is just a complimentary, I guess.
Mate,
He's not that excited about the wedding because none of us are going.
From that, we went to the Wick, the Elstonwick Hotel, which was one of the worst pubs in Melbourne. And then I had...
Big shout out to the public and everything else.
So then I got dressed in my outfit. I was meeting a few of the boys there, and it was a short skirt.
Like that.
I came as a female golfer.
Yeah.
And so I had like a singlet on, a short skirt, and like a little visor. Then we went straight into bottomless brunch. So like a nice bottomless brunch, like a bit of soul singing. So a lot of cocktails there, and that's when, I think there was 32 of us or something. So they all...
Yeah.
I'm sure that the people that went to the bottomless brunch with their missuses for romantic time would have been wrapped.
just to see all the boys
32
running.
blokes and one dressed up as a...
So what was the crowd like? Was at the bottomless brunch outside the Bucks party crowd?
Oh, some really sophisticated, like it almost... and it's so... And I don't think that they... Apparently, when they were booking it, they said, oh, what event is it for? And they said, oh, just some friends getting together. And
Did they cut you off at the bottomless brunch?
No, they just let us go, which was... We were kind of... And as we went in, they kind of guided us towards the back. I think they kind of had a sense that this might be a better spot for us.
On social media, I saw you with your lips around a man's belly button.
Oh, yeah.
Who was this man and what were you doing?
So the next event was lawn bowls. It was a lawn bowls job. So we went there, and a part of it is that they have a challenge. You need to take a shot out of off a random person. And as I looked around to the bowls club, there was not a woman in sight. Sure. It was just men, as you can imagine, on a Saturday afternoon.
Sure. Yes.
And so then...
Not frequent. You wouldn't have thought typically frequented by females on a Saturday afternoon.
No.
The old barefoot bowls.
So then I picked a guy called Whitey. The great Whitey.
Yes.
And Whitey was a big boy. Whitey's probably upward of 120, 130.
Wow.
And I said, Whitey, can you lay down for me, mate, take your shirt off? And he was more than happy to oblige. Whitey actually rolled for Victoria, so a very experienced...
He rolled what? Once?
No.
A joint.
A very experienced lawn bowler.
Oh,
And
bowled
so-
for Victoria. Rolled.
No, he rolled. That's
Yeah.
that's lingo used in the industry, you know. So he's rolled, and he said, and so then I had to fill up his belly button
Full of...
vodka. So it had to be vodka, and
This is like my worst nightmare.
Big Whitey had some, I don't know what you'd call it.
Residue.
Lint?
Yeah, some lint.
Personal residue.
Yeah, some personal residue that was...
Sweat?
So as you fill it up, it was kind of like emerging to the surface.
Like
Belly button jam.
Yeah, it's just a bit of belly button jam.
Was there a crunch to it? Sand?
No, because as you could kind of feel it come in, and just like obviously it was just thicker than vodka, so and you could see it emerging. So it was almost like when you pour something into like a Coke, and then like all the residue rises to the top.
So you had an innie, obviously.
Yeah, and
Good. Hey, good point. Good point, mate.
and as that was and it just kept on coming. It was just like a never-ending, just bits of fluff emerging. So that was an experience. But mate, Fletch absolutely loved it.
Okay.
And then we went from there, and then there was a bit of an incident.
what's
so
that?
What does that mean? What does that mean?
So Pino took his belt off, his leather belt with a buckle,
Yeah.
and then fastened it into a nice little whip. And then I had to remove my pants and bend over, and then proceeded to be whipped repeatedly with the belt.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like this at a Bucks.
Yeah, why is that necessary?
I've been involved in a whipping at a Bucks before. Yeah. Sully's up in Byron Bay.
Yes.
The great Brad Sewell.
And it wasn't a mate doing the whipping. It was a stripper that they'd got to the place.
Like a dominatrix type deal.
Yeah, and Sully flat out refused to want to get whipped. So it was open to someone in the audience, and we paid for the whipping. So I thought, okay.
Better get our money's worth.
Bro, they got the whipping package?
I was pissed enough that I thought I'll put on a bit of a show for the boys.
Was
right?
she? It wasn't the stripper that was dressed as a policewoman from Days of Thunder, was it?
Great question.
I think she was in a police uniform, but I don't know if she was from Days of Thunder.
So you're on all fours?
I'm on all fours and in front of the group, and I sort of said, look, guys, this isn't going to work because I don't feel pain. And they all sort of laughed. And once I'd said that, I then couldn't show any pain.
No.
Right? So she's hit me with this whip across my backside, and I smiled and said, "Oh,
Are you sick for
is that all you've got?" Right, to the point where she kept hitting me, and I kept saying, "Oh, mate, am I meant to be feeling this?"
You were taunting her.
I was taunting her, and I was too far down the line of I couldn't grimace.
You're too far in. You're committed.
My hands couldn't get into the carpet.
Like when you get hit by a bouncer
Yeah.
from the fast
And you-
bowler, you can't rub it.
Like Justin
Cannot,
Langer, he just sort of
absolutely.
looked back at
Looks at Curtly
Shay back
Ambrose.
there. And,
So your face is saying, "Give me more," but internally you saying, "Please
So
stop."
this is infuriating the stripper, and so she's just lashing me, right? Lashing me. I don't think much of it. I put my pants back on. The boys all erupt. We have a great night.
We have a great.
I fly back to Melbourne, and on the Monday, my wife Jess goes, "Oh, let's have a shower." So we're in the shower, and I don't think anything of it, right? My ass is
shower.
completely black and blue. Mate, I'm talking bruising everywhere. And she goes, "What happened to you last night?" Like, and then it dawned on me. Oh, my God. My ass is blue.
Jimmy
And what is-
Cassidy's
welts
been riding
everywhere.
me.
What did you say to Jess?
I said the boys just got belt buckles and started just slapping us around a bit. It
As you do.
It was so
You know?
inappropriate, that behaviour, and childish and immature.
She's such an understanding wife,
Mate.
isn't she, Jess?
My
Just
God.
to move on like that. You know, did she put some moisturiser on for you?
Nah, she
Give
did.
you a
I
little
think she
rub
knew
down?
deep down. But geez, I've never had both cheeks black.
Jesus.
Really?
Any other moments of
I
depravity?
had a bloke. A bloke I know pretty well. Did time in Singapore, and he had to get the cane. He had to get 5 canes.
Did he?
And he's still got the scars. Yeah, they're the proper cane. That's as punishment. Yeah, I think he had to do about 6 months prison time and five lashings from the cane.
What? So
I'm
do you get to
serious.
pick the cane or the
Nah,
prison
no,
time?
no,
I like that. I like options.
Yeah, I like
It's
that.
part of the sentence. And then eventually they bring you out, and however many you've got, he said there was a guy ahead of him who had more than he might have been 15 or 30 lashings. He had 5. But it's actually a proper hard cane and crack. And obviously the bloke doing it, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
At your privileged boys' school, did you get assaulted by the...
No, the cane didn't exist back when I was at school. And if it did exist, I would have just snapped it across my knee and said, "Stick this up your ass."
That would have worked.
Oh, that's
That
nice.
would have
That's
been
nice.
I think. All right. Well, anything else you want to give?
It ended with, and we have a tradition that at all of the boys' bucks parties, that at the end of the night you need to arm wrestle your dad, as kind of like a
nice.
passing of the torch from one to the other.
I often think of arm wrestling. Ben Ross, who used to play rugby league, going up against Wendell Saylor,
yes.
rugby league legend, on the footy show that night, when in the
remember.
arm wrestle, went live to air.
I saw that live. I don't know.
Ben Ross had his arm snapped. by Wendell
Live.
Saylor.
Yeah.
Live. You heard the crack.
Oh,
didn't
and he
you?
screamed, and everyone went, "Oh!"
Mate, it was worse than Jeremy Howe's
was
broken
it?
arm.
Well, congratulations, mate.
You survived.
You survived.
Thank you very much.
I remember ages ago I told you guys how I was trying to quit vaping.
Yeah, vaguely.
How's that going?
It's pretty good. Like, I'm off them.
Are ya? Even the watermelon ones?
On the Bucks day that I went to, I sucked on one.
But I think
Did ya?
that's okay, though.
Just one
Isn't it
here and
for
there. But
special
it creeps in.
occasions?
That's where it gets you. It creeps in. But, like, my point is about vaping. We still don't know how bad it is for you long term.
No,
You know?
but it doesn't matter.
But it made me find this cigarette ad from when smokes were in that same period, when people assumed they were bad for you, but they
Yes.
didn't really know. Have a listen to this ad for cigarettes.
Playing tag with the waves. A refreshing way to take a walk at the beach. How can you add to it? With a menthol cigarette.
Newport Filter Cigarettes.
The most refreshing smoke of all.
Newport Menthol Cigarettes.
Only Newport has a fine white filter, menthol and mint, and a blend of great tasting tobaccos. That's how Newport refreshes while you smoke. Makes the flavor fresher.
How many times did he say refreshing?
It does too.
Imagine
Sounds
that's
easy.
the last thing I would want if I'm walking along the beach and in that clip with your beautiful partner and the air's hitting your hair and the waves are rolling in. Oh, what could make this better? A cigarette.
It's up.
You wouldn't want the kids hearing that. Mind you, our mate we're walking down Venice Beach with, over the Super Bowl trip. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
He bought a joint. We're walking down Venice Beach, and mate,
Magic
the
Mike.
stench is just hovering over us. He's smoking a joint.
Magic.
Who knows how bad this shit is for you, this vaping stuff. Oh, well.
Get off him, Dino.
I will. Back in a second.
This is Brownie's Podcast.
This is Brownie's podcast. Dog, what a world back on Friday.
Friday, got a big one for you.
All right, in the meantime, I'm Dean Thomas, and these are my observations from round 1, 2023. A big thank you to Cam Guthrie and Grind Myers for finally getting rid of those dreadlocks.
They're pretty ordinary, weren't they?
Dreadlocks on white men is very strange. They look like session musicians for the John Butler Trio. They look like people of the forest. They look like hacky sack addicts. And now that's all gone. Oh, by the way, Grind Myers, I think there's sprouts of new dreadlocks.
Get rid of it.
There's no more depressing feeling than on a Sunday night, the weekend's coming down to an end. You get that scared feeling in your tummy, and then you look on the TV, and the bounce starts. They trick you too, because you're watching the game, right? And Chief just appears.
Yeah, I
you got
know.
no warning. All of a sudden, you're just in the bounce.
Was Daisy on last night?
Mate, I don't care.
Was Bernie Vince?
No,
Dicko?
Dicko was there.
Moons?
Me.
The Chieftain's a scary proposition at the best of times.
I had to host, along with Sarah Jones, the Fox Footy launch. And I went through the bounce. Who was on it? Shani Leighton, I introduced. Mate, they said she hasn't been on bounce for 2 years.
A classy move from Channel 7 not to show the Jeremy Howe incident over and over again. That's a really nice touch. It joins other TV incidents like the Wendell Saylor and Ben Ross incident.
Yes.
They didn't show that again. And also Fox Footy for never showing best on ground again.
Mate, take that back.
Never! Hey, enjoy your week. See you on Friday.
Thanks, guys.